Full and uncut versions available on Patreon. Check in the description below.
Greetings once again, Pokemaniacs, or should I say, Alola, and welcome back to the Pokemon Adventures manga, as we now enter into the Sun and Moon arc. But what happened previously? Well, through the combined efforts of Team Aqua and Team Magma, the newer versions, under Zinnia, Ruby and Sapphire were able to be outfitted with the Magma and Aqua suits, allowing them to breathe in space. So Rayquaza took them up to face off against Grand Meteor Delta. You gotta love how the Japanese name thing. With Rayquaza mega evolving in order to use Dragon Ascent in order to destroy the meteor, only for it to be revealed that within it was none other than Deoxys, and not just any Deoxys. Organism number 1, the very same that Team Rocket previously got rid of. Yeah, it was gunning for Giovanni, but the only people who knew was both Giovanni and Red. So after a fierce battle, Rayquaza was able to shatter Deoxys' core, sending it back out to the depths of space. Will we ever see it again? Hard to say. And at first it seemed like Ruby and Sapphire after the battle would be lost to the depths of space. But Rayquaza, now being a real homie, helps bring them back to Earth to see all their friends, family, and loved ones, and to participate in the contest, with Ruby having Hoopa find Diancite in order to allow Diancie to Mega Evolve one last time, well, for the first time, and participate in the contest before it leaves for the Kalos region to participate in X and Y, meeting up with Gherkin, Diantha, and Karina. There we go. Had to remember who Diancie actually interacted with for a second there. So Ruby with Diancie and Sapphire with her Donphan participate in the contest, having themselves a good old time. But now we leave all that behind and move on to the Alola region, where, well, both familiar and unfamiliar faces lie in wait. What'll happen next? Join me as I find out, won't you? Alright, we pick up in a chapter titled The Grand Entrance and Delivery Boy Son. We pick up with a video of Alolan variants of Meowth. Love the Alolan variants of Meowth. Alolan Persian. But Meowths are cool. The person on the video call says, now, would you please look over here? That's when I'm finally able to video call my great-grandson. Oh, great-grandson. Oh, okay. The man says, I'm sorry, son. Looks like they're too prideful to listen. The young son says, nah, it's okay, Gramps. I'm excited just to see rare Pokemon. His great-grandpa says, rare? Alright. These Meowths are pretty different from the ones you know. And you see that son is next to a book of the regular variants of Meowth and Persian. As he says, yeah, their fur and color definitely seem high class. His great-grandfather says, these Pokemon were given as an offering to a royal family long ago. Since they were spoiled and raised in luxury, they seem to have become pretty selfish. Son says, that's so cool. I want to go visit there someday. Oh, and I guess we pick up in present day with who I'm assuming is Moon next to a Rotom, which, I mean, remember when Rotom used to be a pretty legendary Pokemon? I shouldn't joke about that. The way they use Rotom nowadays is actually kind of cool. Very futuristic. Moon stands with a Rotom looking over the beach as she says, the warm resort region Alola. Blue skies, blue seas, sparkling beaches, bright colored flowers blooming everywhere, and finally, these tropical clothes. So did she just arrive? Interesting. None of it suits my character, don't you think, Rotom? And Rotom just kind of waves its arm. Moon then says, well, it's fine. Let's hurry up and finish the delivery. A voice calls us out, watch out! And as Moon turns, she's suddenly hit in the face by something slimy and white. Stop it! We see Sun with his leg in a cast, as he hobbles over, waving, saying, oops, sorry about that. You alright? Moon grimaces, saying, ew, what's this slimy stuff? Sun says, I was doing my job. Pukumuku chucking. Alright, because you gotta throw them back into the sea. But as you can see, they're slimy, so this one slipped loose. Moon then says, compensation. Sun questions this, and Moon angrily says, even though I have an important delivery to make, you got me all sticky and slimy. Compensate for my clothes. Sun freaks out, saying, compensate? You mean you want me to pay you? He thinks for a moment, and angrily, Moon questions what? But Sun pops a smile, saying, but you know, that slimy stuff is actually a great moisturizer. Okay. Lots of celebrities use it for skincare. You could try it. And Moon rubs her face, saying, it's true. My skin is so soft and smooth. I should actually be thanking you. Not, as she chucks a Pukumuku right into Sun's face. Sun tells her, you're doing it wrong. You're supposed to throw Pukumuku into the sea as far as you can, too. As he chucks it into the sea. Moon then questions, what kind of job is Pukumuku throwing? Sun explains, saying, the sea cucumber Pokemon, Pukumuku. It's cute, but they say that when there's a lot of them on the beach, tourists get freaked out. Look. He reaches into his bag, pulling out a Pokédex. Oh, he already has one. But, it doesn't have a Rotom in it. Interesting. Sun says, not to mention, it's a trait of Pukumukus that once they find a place that they like, they stay there, even if they run out of food. That's why throwing them back into the sea is good for them. Moon then questions, by the looks of it, your left leg's broken, right? Why do you have to work? Sun reaches down for another Pukumuku, saying, since I broke my leg, I haven't been able to do any jobs except this. Moon questions, why do you go this far? Sun tells her, well, you see, I've got to save 100 million yen as soon as possible. How much is that? I'm pretty sure the yen translates to the Poke dollars too. So I guess it would still be the same amount. I think there was maybe something in the game you can get for that amount. I can't remember what it could be for the life of me, though. But there's always some big thing in most games that you can get with a large amount of money. Moon questions 100 million yen. Sun checking another Pukumuku. Pukumuku. That is what they're called, right? I'm not saying it wrong. Yeah, Pukumuku. Says that's right. I don't do compensation, but I can make this up to you. I'll be done with work soon. So would you mind waiting for me? Several Pukumuku tossed into the ocean later. Sun calls out, all right, it's all clean. He's suddenly approached by, yes, Team Skull. Oh, yeah. I love these guys. Oh, man. Although, I do like the name Team Yell a little bit better, but we'll get to that later. Two Team Skull grunts, one male and one female. The male says, that's the end of it. Time's up, part-timer. Did you finish your work? And there were two Salandit. Yeah, Salandit. The grunt says, you were to get the beach clean, not a single Pukumuku remaining. If you didn't, we won't pay you. Sun says, I did. Check and make sure. The grunt says, hey. And the two Salandit go around searching. As they make their way back to the grunt, he says, looks like there ain't one in sight. Here's the money as promised. He holds out a fistful of cash, and Sun says, sweet. But the female grunt eyes the cash, and then we see, oh, okay, I didn't see it at first. Well, you can see that she was holding a Pukumuku in her hand, and she then drops it right into the sand. But Moon does see this. The female grunt gestures over to the Salandit, and the Salandit goes over to the male grunt. The grunt says, And he kneels down, seeing the Pukumuku, saying, well, looky here. There's still one left. Looks like I can't pay you after all. Sun says, no way. But the grunt says, didn't you know? This beach is Team Skull's precious territory. There's a festival we're supposed to make big bucks off of tomorrow. And if no customers come from the beach, it'll be a huge loss. Well, we're not that bad. We could give you another chance. Sun says, really? The grunt says, yeah. We'll let you keep throwing Pukumuku for the rest of your life. Your pay will be half. No, 10% of what it is now. Sun gets visibly concerned, but Moon says, why don't you decline? I saw the person behind him drop a Pukumuku out of her pockets. Sun tries to tell her, stop, shh. But Moon says, just look, her hands have slime all over them. The male grunt says, oh, are you Mr. Part-Timer's girlfriend? And then the Salandit suddenly smacks Moon in the face with its tail. As it wags its tail, the male grunt says, hey, you all right, Salandit? Oh, your tail is broken. If you work for us, you won't have to pay the medical bill. The female grunt says, well, keep giving your best. But as Sun tends to Moon, he sighs, takes his Oh, Crutch, was he faking it? And smashes open his cast, much to the shock of the two grunts and Moon. As he taps his foot, he says it's probably healed by now. Oh. Was it just a guess? Oh, and then he brings out a Alolan Meowth. God, I wish its evolution was better than what it is. May it never evolve. The male grunt says, "You picking a fight?" and sends in the two Salandit. But as they strike at Meowth, Meowth manages to parry all their attacks. Moon says he's blocking all their attacks. Sun then says, "All right, let's finish him. Payday!" And Meowth whips him with a whole bunch of coins, knocking him back. Nice. Go get some money out of that. The grunt says, You better remember this." What, you running away? I don't think you want them to remember that. As Sun picks up all of the coins from Meowth, he says, "Now I've done it. Can't work on this beach anymore after this." Moon then says, "Is there any point in you sucking up to those jerks for work?" Sun says there is. Moon questions, "For the 100 million yen? What are you going to use it for?" Sun simply says, "That's a secret. Now, to make things up to you, you said you had an important delivery to make, right? How about I do it for you?" Moon says, "That'd help, but are you sure?" Sun says, "Not a problem. My main line of work is delivery." "Oh, that device. I forget what the name of it is, but it's the device that you use to call rides and stuff." Sun asks, "Where's it going?" Moon says, "The Kukui laboratory." "Ah, Kukui, yeah." Sun says, "Cool. I'll use a ride then. It seems like there'll be a lot of rocky roads, so maybe a charge." And with a push of a button and a blinding light that Moon shields herself from, suddenly Sun's clothes have changed, and now he has a Tauros next to him. A ride Tauros. Can't use it in battle, it's only for rides. Much to Moon's shock. Sun says, "Then there's your wet clothes, right? We can dry them with this guy." N. Let's see. Okay, so the translation says the Meowth is cent and the Litten is dollar. Dollar and cent. Yeah, because there's a whole translation thing here, but you can't really do that in English without an editor's note or something. And they try not to do that too much. As Litten lights up in front of Moon, she says, "Oh, what a hot blaze, Hono." And then she says, "Is it N because of the blaze?" And Sun says, "Nope, it's N from 100 million yen. N." Yeah, I don't know how you translate that. Sun then brings out an abacus and goes through it saying, "The Pikamuku chucking job was a minus. Payday makes a plus. Take away the money I still need. All right. You got a positive balance." And as he rides off on the Tauros, he says, "My name's Sun. You can call me Sun the Courier." Okay, that's kind of cool. I like this kid already. Not bad. I'd like to get to know more of Moon, though, too. All right, we pop into the next chapter, second chapter, which is called The Delivery of Rotom and the Girl. Okay. You have a cover page that gives a readout about Sun's new fit and all the items he has, which I can't read because it's in Japanese. But I checked back in and saw that this is named a ride pager that he has to call rides, which kind of obvious. They bring in pagers back. Hey, it's your boy Guzma! Yo, Guzma! We see Guzma sitting on his little throne, stomping his feet, well, tapping his foot, saying, "So yeah." See, I don't like how clear his English voice is in both the game, in Masters and in the anime. So I kind of prefer my own, because it's the voice I always thought of whenever I'd read any of his lines in my head. Oh man, I love Guzma. See, in the game, I feel like I said this before, but I had a Team Skull outfit, and I'd always wear it, but I'd be going around beating them up and stuff. Oh, but I had to rep Team Skull, though, man. I need to actually buy a Team Skull shirt. He says, "So y'all are telling me that a brat like that whooped you so hard that you came running back here with your tail between your legs." The female grunt says, "We're sorry, Mr. Guzma." While the male says, are we gonna be punished for this?" Guzma says, "Y'all all right with making Team Skull look weak?" "Nah, not a chance." The male grunt then grabs Pukamook, saying, "This is all your fault, Pukamook," only for Pukamook to punch him in the face, causing his head to collide with the female grunt. As they're knocked out, Guzma says, "Tomorrow's the festival. both of you get the fried slowpoke tail stand ready. And when you find that part-time brat, report back immediately. Your boy Guzma will punish them directly. I said the thing. It's your boy Guzma. The laughter's not in there. I added it myself. Oh, Guzma. See, that's the big difference. Had Team Yell had a leader like Guzma, I would have loved him even more. Not to say that I hate Team Yell's leadership. It's just, Guzma's got that sauce, man. Guzma's got the sauce. Okay, we pick back up where the previous chapter ended, where Sun calls out to Moon as he rides off. I'm Sun. You can call me Sun the Courier. And as he makes his way off into the distance, he then makes his way back saying, whoop, sorry, I forgot to take the goods. Yeah, I was kind of wondering, did she even get the delivery item? So, what should I take to Professor Kukui? I keep wanting to say Kakui, but I'm pretty sure it's Kukui. Moon says, the delivery is this rotom. And me. Oh, she's being delivered too? Sun jots that down saying, okay, alright, this will be your receipt. It's received. And he slaps the little notice, the packing slip on Moon's head. This could be considered human trafficking. I don't know. Well, I mean, she wanted it, so it's more like a taxi service. But that doesn't become more common until Sword and Shield. Sun says, can't forget to place the packing slip. Let's go. As they head down Route 2, I believe. As they make their way downtown, riding fast, Sun asks, is this your first time in Alola, miss? Moon says, yes, I just got here from a different region to deliver Rotom. So, I'm guessing since Sun is already here, I guess Moon would be the protagonist character in this. Because I'm pretty sure that you only get one of the trainers in the game. Because you don't see your opposite gender counterpart in the series. So it's either one or the other. And they come from the Kanto region. Yep, Kanto. So, but, are they both from the Kanto region in this? Or, I wonder how long Sun's been in Alola. Interesting. But Sun says we'll be in Haoli City's shopping district. Forgive my translations. I actually have not actually watched enough of the anime to know how a lot of these are pronounced. So forgive me. I'm bad enough when it comes to pronouncing Japanese, but pronouncing more Polynesian names are just... Is that the right word for it? Polynesian? I wonder. Part of me wants to be like, I loved Moana and I loved Lilo and Stitch. Between those two, I would hope that maybe I can figure out the pronunciation here, but I feel like that's going a little too far. Sun says, if we go through there, we'll reach the lab in no time. But the townspeople are all smiles when they see Sun, saying, hey there, Sun. And a hula girl says, oh my, are you on a date? Oh boy. And he's the talk of the town. Sun says, no, this is work. She's the goods. No, the customer. Today's her first day in Alola. Give her a big welcome. The hula girl says, Alola, as she puts a lei around Moon's neck. As Moon rather begrudgingly says, Alola. Oh, it's what's that Pokemon again? A Comfey. And as Moon looks at the lace, saying, this isn't really my style, but suddenly Comfey comes to life and gives her a kiss on the cheek, causing Moon to freak out, throwing it off. He says, what is this? Sun says, you fell for it. And he's rolling on the floor laughing, saying, you thought it was a lei, right? Comfey's a Pokemon. I fell for that on my first day, too. Moon gets visibly pissed, saying, listen, didn't I tell you we needed to be delivered ASAP? Are you serious about this or not? Sun, still with tears of laughter in his eyes, says, of course I am. I'm friends with Professor Kukui, you know? He brandishes his Litten, and I'm going to use the English translation for the names, just because I'm kind of used to that. Dollar and my Pokédex, I got both of them from him. Moon says, so that's called a Pokédex. Sun says, yep, and Dollar is a Litten. Sun then realizes something and says, hold up, now isn't the time for chatter. You're in a hurry, right? Moon gets angry, saying, you've got to be kidding. But as Sun goes to get up, he has an immense surge of pain rushed through his leg. He rolls on the ground saying, ow, 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 ow. Moon, rather despondent, says, what is it this time? Sun says, I knew it wasn't completely healed. Moon tells him, take that off for a second. Sun says, perv. Dude, does she know first aid? Moon examines his ankle, saying, you should be fine if you rub in some painkillers. Oh god, yeah, she has a whole pharmaceutical thing. Hey, is she out here dealing drugs? Is that why she came to Alola? International waters? Oh man, is that why the international police show up? Like Blake, or I guess I should say Colress. They're tracking her down. She reads off the ingredients. Cubone, bone powder, check. Miracle seed, check. Honey, check. Nepenthes, leaves. I guess that should be enough. Sun questions, you can make medicine? Are you a doctor? A nurse? Moon says, close, but not quite. I think she might be dealing drugs. He says, right, I still haven't introduced myself. I'm Moon, a pharmacist. All right, because Nurse Joy doesn't really exist in the normal Pokemon universe, so, yeah, okay, so, not to mention there used to be, like, drug stores in the Pokemon world, like pharmaceutical shops, where you'd buy, like, your ethers and your stuff like that, so, yeah, I guess that works. Moon then looks around saying, now I just need the right berry. She spots a tree with several bird Pokemon pecking at it. Moon says that some bird Pokemon are eating them. What awful timing. Sun says, those are Pikabek. Moon says, it just never ends. Fine then, I have to interrupt them. She reaches into her bag and pulls out a bow and arrow. Well, you know what? We haven't seen too many diverse Pokeball launching techniques in a hot minute, so I guess that's about as good as any. Bow and arrow, though. I wonder what Pokemon she has inside that she would, be able to launch it and stuff. Interesting. Sun says, bow and arrow? What are you? The Moon says, shush. Let me concentrate. She aims and then fires the arrow, and it scares off the Pikapek. Oh, was there not a Pokemon inside the ball? She aims again, saying, with the first arrow, I'll get the Pikapek away from those berries, without hesitation. And then she fires the second arrow, knocking off one of the berries. As it lands, Sun says, amazing. Oh, right. Oh, the Meowth is named Dollar. Oh, no. Oh, that's kind of confusing. Oh, because Dara means sluggish, so it also stands for dollar. I'm going to still go with the English translation and call it scent, as scent sluggishly goes off and grabs the berry and comes back, literally dragging its feet, and it hands it over to Moon. Moon says, wait, is this the same Meowth you battled with earlier? Sun says, it's always like this unless it's battling. It's all sluggish, so I named it Scent. It's just on the ground like, no will to live. As Moon mixes the berry and components, that's all done, and applies it to Sun's leg. And then she says, how is it? He gets up, taps and rolls his foot, and says, it doesn't hurt. Thank you. How much do I pay? Moon says, I don't need anything. Sun questions, really? All right. You're just amazing in all kinds of ways, aren't you? Moon says, of course. I went to school for pharmaceuticals, after all. There's no medicine I can't make. Oh, cool. Though I still need the right ingredient. Sun says, I see. You learned how to use a bow and arrow in school, huh? I'd honestly be asking the same thing. Is it like that where you learn to use a bow and arrow? But Moon says, I just said I studied pharmaceuticals. Sun says, but if all you needed was a berry, why didn't you just use a Pokemon? Moon says, that's because a long time ago, and then she's immediately interrupted as Sun says, whoa, what's that? Moon shrieks as she looks to the sky. Oh, hey, Tapu Koko! A rift in the sky appears, and so does Tapu Koko. Moon questions, is that a Pokemon? Sun says, I don't know. I've never seen it before. As Tapu Koko's, what is that called? Is it armor or shield? Oh, it's a shell. Oh, okay. Well, Tapu Koko opens its shell, revealing its actual body, much to the shock of Sun and Moon. And as Tapu Koko glares down at them and unleashes an electric blast towards the ground that Sun and Moon just narrowly avoid. Sun then unleashes his two Pokemon, unleashes his Litten next to his Meowth, saying it's going after us. Dollar, Cent, get it. But as soon as Dollar and Cent see each other, they immediately start fighting. Jesus. Not compatible, huh? Moon questions, what are they doing? Sun says, they don't get along. If I let them out at the same time, they start fighting. Moon says, then send one back. Tapu Koko then lands on the ground next to them and electrifies it. Electrical terrain? But this seems to catch Dollar and Cent's attention. Is it attacking them or trying to communicate? And as Moon looks around, she says, there's electricity surging from the ground. Sun says, I've got it. It noticed my foot and is treating it with electricity. Moon is taken aback and then says, are you stupid? It's probably getting ready to power up one of its moves. That Pokemon is most likely an electric type. And as Tapu Koko fires off another attack, it's aimed towards the Moon. And as she shields herself and shrieks, we see a blast. But as she slowly opens her eyes, she sees she's now on Tauros. Did Tauros deflect the attack? I'm not really sure what happened there. Sun tells her, Miss, give me a little more time. Moon questions what? Sun says, I'm a courier. I'm rewarded for delivering goods unharmed. And if it's necessary, I'll battle to make that happen. Moon says, no matter how you look at it, that thing is too strong. We should run. But Sun bounds forward and says, and what do we do if it chases us? Dollar, use Ember. And Dollar surrounds Tapu Koko with several blasts of fire. Moon says he managed to close the gap between them instinctively. Sun then calls out, now, Cent, finish it with Payday. And Cent unleashes a barrage of coins that Tapu Koko shields itself with. Okay, now both have their eyes on the prize. Tapu Koko has shielded itself with its shell. Tapu Koko then races off into the sky, out of sight. Sun says, I wonder if it wanted to play because it was bored. It takes Moon off guard. And she says, I don't feel like jabbing at him. But Sun then kneels down and sees something. Oh, a Z-crystal, or Z-stone. As he asks, what's this? Oh, and as they arrive at Professor Kukui's lab, Sun says, and here we are. This is Professor Kukui's laboratory. As he helps Moon off Tauros, as a voice calls out, all right. Ooh, paralyzing moves are so jolting. All right, one more time. Yes, just like that. As Moon listens, she says, what's going on? Sun says, this is normal. He then waves over at her saying, it's dangerous over there. Follow me. As the voice calls out, now, two of you, do it. Yeah. Moon says, dangerous? What do you? As suddenly a figure is blasted out of the roof and lands right in front of Moon. As she shrieks, Kahui says, that was a great bubble to what was it called again? Piplup? Piplup, yeah. And Rowlet, your leaf age was amazing. Sun then calls out, Professor. As Kukui says, oh, yo, if it isn't Sun. Elsewhere, we see the Kahuna. Ala says, looks like we're all here. Akala Island Kahuna, Olivia. Ula Ula Island Kahuna, Nanu. Nanu says, Hala, what happened to Pony's Island's Kahuna? Hala says, I hear the seat is still unoccupied. However, among its seafolk, there is information on Tapu Fini. Talking about the Tapu. Olivia says, it's the same in Akala with Tapu Lili. And Nanu says, Ula Ula too. People claim to have seen Tapu Bulu. What about your place? Hala says, yes, on my island Tapu Koko has Tapus. Guardians that had been said to remain deep in the ruins of their respective islands. Even though they rarely reveal themselves to humans, they've shown up in places filled with them at the same time. What does it mean? That goes without saying. That Tapu has been angered. Ooh, okay. The four Tapu is getting juicy. Alright, the next chapter is titled The Pokemon Move Specialist Professor Kukui. Wow, I don't know why I cannot get that. Alola, everyone. Sun calls out Professor. Well, Kukui says, yo, if it isn't Sun. Well, Moon thinks herself Professor. This guy is Professor Kukui? Why isn't he wearing anything underneath his lab coat? Oh, some people's nipples chafe. Why did he come through the roof with those Pokemon? Why? Kukui then says, right, Sun, be grateful. That thing of yours sold. We're out of stock. Sun questions, my thing? What would that be? Kukui says, the Pukumuku mucus moisturizer you bottled. It's a big hit with the ladies on Mille Mille. My wife liked it so much that she bought 20. Here's your money. I don't think she really needs that. His wife is. Ooh, gorgeous, especially after the tan. Shoot, I didn't even realize that she originally appeared in a game until I was shown what she looked like before her tan. And I'm like, oh, I remember that, because I had only seen brief glimpses of her in the game. But I hope she shows up in this. His wife is awesome. Here's your money. Son says, for real? That's great, as he's handed a whole stack of cash. Son goes to his abacus saying, stock is 0. I've got a positive balance. Moon then says, hey, do you mind? Son says, oh, right. Sorry, miss. Professor, this is... The Kukui is already having Piplo use, I guess, Bubble Beam, which is in case him and Rowlet did some bubbles. Kukui tries to say something, pointing to Piplo. But Sun says, huh? I can't hear you. Moon freaks out, saying, idiot, if we don't hurry up and save him, he'll... She pops the bubble with one of her arrows. As Kukui says, did you see that, Son? That was Piplo's bubble balloon. Sun says, I did. How was it? Kukui says, you really don't know a move's power until you experience it for yourself. That was his nature, wasn't it? Moon says, what are you doing? Both Kukui and Sun are stunned silent, and Kukui turns to Sun saying, who is she? Sun says, whoops. He goes up and pats her on the back, ripping off the tag on her forehead, saying, I'm Sun, the courier. I've come with a delivery for Professor Kukui. The goods are this girl and... Kukui says, delivery? Moon gives a bow, saying, it's nice to meet you, Professor Kukui. My name is Moon, and this is Rotom. Rotom gives a wave, and Kukui says, ooh! But Sun then grabs Moon's arms, waving them in the air, saying, don't say nice to meet you. The greeting we use in Alola is like this. Alola! But Moon says, let go of me. It's like Billy and Mandy in the Pokemon world. But Kukui's freaking out over the Rotom, saying, I was waiting for you. Amazing. Incredible. But Sun says, you're seriously crying over this? Kukui, with tears in his eyes, says, of course I am, Sun. It's a valuable species that isn't found in Alola. This Rotom, that is. Sun says, all right, would you hurry up and sign or stamp here? Kukui signs and... Sun holds up his ride pager saying, delivery complete, and then sends away Tauros. How does that work? I kind of question it in the game, but it's just like it's a game mechanic. But I question it even more here. Yeah, even Moon's just like, you change back to normal in an instant. Tauros disappeared too. How does that even work? Sun thinks for a moment and says after Tauros returns to the ride pager, it's transferred back to the ranch, I think. Kukui then calls out, Sun, Moon, title drop, over here. As Sun enters, he says, huh? I finished my job. This shouldn't have anything to do with me. Yeah, he only cares if there's money involved. Kukui says, it has everything to do with you. Get your Pokedex out. And Kukui shows an example of Rotom in its various different modes. Sun questions, the heck is this? Moon explains it's an illustration related to Rotom's forms. Kukui says, ooh, you know your stuff. Rotom's body is made of plasma, and it's known for its ability to inhabit nearby machines. Not only that, but when it inhabits those machines, it uses them as its body and changes form. If Rotom inhabits a washing machine, it becomes Wash Rotom. If it inhabits a refrigerator, it becomes Frost Rotom, and so on. Sun then says, so if it inhabits an abacus, it becomes an abacus Rotom. And if it inhabits a savings box, it becomes savings Rotom. Moon says, it won't. Neither of those are machines, you know? Kukui continues his explanation. Until recently, Rotom has only been confirmed to inhabit 5 different electrical appliances. However, there is someone who's been researching whether or not it's possible for it to inhabit any more. Are they gonna... Oh, they did kind of say it. He's known as the inventor boy of Kalos, and his invention, Son, I've already given it to you. They should have said his name. I don't think they say his name in the game either, because it would have been just like, if you don't know, it's, oh god, I'm blanking on his name. I hate that. I hate that. Clement? There we go. Clement. God. It wasn't that long ago I read X and Y. I don't know why I blanked on his name so hard. Kukui says, it's that Pokedex. Moon then asks, so then Rotom will... Kukui says, right. Like I said before, Rotom aren't found in Alola. So we searched the entire world for people willing to help us out. The result, Sun says, was you coming here, huh? Does that mean Rotom is your Pokemon? Moon says, no. When I heard about the situation, this Rotom was somewhat weak. It couldn't handle being electronically transferred. So I, being a pharmacist, was chosen to escort it here. Kukui says, that means you gave it constant attention to make sure it was in good condition then. If so, it should be in perfect health, right? Moon smiles, saying, of course. And you even have Rotom just gotta flexing its guns. Kukui claps his hands, saying, all right, let's get started then. Son, put your Pokedex here. And Sun does just that, putting it into a little slot device. Oh, kind of like a switch almost. The Sun says, alrighty. Kukui then says, now, Rotom, hop in. Rotom eyes the Pokedex. Moon says, it seems pretty interested. Kukui says, perfect. They say, oh, as Rotom places its ghostly hand in, and then seems to panic, and then flies towards the ceiling. Kukui says, what? How? Why? You didn't like it? What didn't you like? As he looks at the Pokédex, he says, it's kind of sticky and scratched up. It's a little smelly, too. Sun says, that must be from when I dropped it in mud-stale crap. When I dropped it in the water during work and touched it in the middle of Kukumuku chucking. Oh my god. Kukui jumps at Sun using Flying Press, and Sun uses, now you done it, Dynamic Punch. Kukui says, double kick. Moon says, I should go home. And you traveled all this way just to drop it off. Would that mean Sun is more the protagonist? I don't know. Maybe they split it up. Meanwhile, we cut back over to the Kahuna. I guess Hala is officiating as Olivia and Nanu face off. Hala says, right. Strange glance. And he calls out, begin! As, and Hala even has his Beware behind him. And because of this, we get one of my first and favorite Pokemon in the series. Olivia sends out her Lycanroc Midnight form. Yes. Oh, man. Oh, this bad boy went with me all the way to the top, baby. All the way to the top. Midnight form Lycanroc had it going on. And then there's a Alolan form Persian from Nanu. Ugh, it's the round face. I just can't deal with it. I get the idea, but ugh. Olivia commands Lycanroc to use Rock Climb, and it smacks Persian in the face. Nanu says, Stray. Already striking hard, huh? You're as impatient as ever. Guess we'll start off with Nasty Plot. And as Persian uses that, Nanu then commands, no, Dark Pulse, and unleashes a massive attack against Lycanroc. Olivia says, attacking after raising special attack? Quit beating around the bush. Nanu shrugs, saying, it's called strategizing. It's something you do in battle and in relationships. But I guess that's impossible for you. Ooh, dude, Nanu. Not cool. Olivia already feels some kind of way about that. Yep, sure enough. She gets pissed off, and even Hala kind of shies away a little bit. Oh, she's going to use a Z move. Hala says, Olivia, are you going to use full force? There's no need to go that far. As Olivia unleashes Lycanroc's Z move, Continental Crush. Nanu goes up from his squatting position and says, hey, if you go all out right off the bat, even men will run from you. Good grief. As he has Persian use Black Hole Eclipse, which, yeah, that's a Z move too, right? See, it's kind of weird because they don't put the sign for the Z crystals in the forefront. I mean, they always used to do that with the, they always put the image for, Mega Evolution next to them for that. I thought they'd do that with the Z moves too. But as they go in, mostly Lycanroc going in, Hala steps in and eats the hit from Lycanroc. Olivia calls out, Hala! Nanu says, shoot. Olivia and Lycanroc bow as she says, I'm sorry. Hala, now being carted around by Beware, says, no, in full force battles you shouldn't hold back in the arena. You don't seem to have any problems in the strength test. Nanu says, it's not an arena, it's a stage of combat, isn't it? As he passed the deck, he says, well, you're certainly well versed in improvisation. On a stage of combat like this well made, it should be no problem if you go wild, Olivia. Olivia grows angry at this comment. I don't remember Nanu getting so under her skin, but he would be the one to make smarmy remarks that might get to her a little bit. As Beware helps Hala off of the stage, he says, all right, now we've checked the stage of combat. It can make its debut at tomorrow's festival. And finally, following the conclusion we came to earlier, tomorrow we will have our candidates, the youth of Alola, fight. Ah, interesting. Okay. We will select the individuals that display the greatest strength as representatives and have them travel the 4 islands to calm the Tapu's rage. Nanu questions, imitating the island challenge tradition, huh? Hala says, we Kahuna and trial captains all have our own Z-rings. In other words, we have battled directly with the Tapus. Olivia says, the Tapus won't fight the same person twice. Originally, the battles that take place during the festival were dedicated to them, so I think it should be fine. I actually don't remember that it was always the Tapus who gave over the Z-rings. I thought some of them were passed down. Interesting. When the Tapus are called, the people can live at ease. If the Tapus continue to show up in towns and exercise their power, the people will become uneasy. We must calm the Tapus as quickly as possible. Nanu questions, but are you really fine with just that? Hala says, what are you trying to say, Nanu? Nanu says, not even we know why the Tapus are angry. Hala says, of course, that's why we came up with the counter plan. We will determine the source of their rage. For that purpose, I've contacted Kaili. Alola's problem should be handled by Alolan. We'll gather our people currently outside the region. Okay, already hearing about Kahili. I think that's how you pronounce her name, Kahili. But considering in the original game she barely got to know much about Kahili, it would be nice if she maybe showed up a little bit earlier than when she does in the games. Then again, maybe Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon had her more involved early on too. Oh god. As Sun exits Kukui's lab all black and blue. He says, man, I give up. He got crazy mad at me. Moon says, of course he did. But Sun then gestures to the window. We see Kukui just loving having Rotom around. As he says, but Rotom got here safely, didn't it? Moon says, you're a mess. Well, Sun says, that's because I ran around a lot, falling off of cliffs and out of trees. Moon says, I'll fix you up. Sun says, for free? Moon says, of course. Sun says, then please. And as she implies ointment, Moon questions, so has Rotom inhabited the Pokedex yet? Sun says, not quite. The professor was taking apart the Pokedex to clean it. Oh, it doesn't hurt. Moon shakes her head saying, how awful. Sun says, so what are you going to do, miss? You got Rotom to the professor, so you have nothing more to do, right? You going home? Sun then brings out his abacus calculating, saying, if so, I'll take you to a hotel or port for cheap, too. But suddenly he's whacked in the face by something. Oh, Rowlet. Oh, did it take a liking to her? Ooh, she gets the Rowlet. Oh, good. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. It was ultimately Litten's final evolution that was my favorite, but I won't lie. I will not lie. Rowlet's final evolution was kind of cool by me, too. Oh, it was so cool. It was so cool. So, if they both have those individual Pokemon, oh, thank God. I guess How is the only one who would get the Piplup then. Where is How? That's his name, right? How? Yeah, How. Because, I gotta say, the stories that go around are pretty involved. To have both Sun and Moon, and then How and Lily, and then also to have Gladion, that's a lot of characters to follow. Will they be able to actually get enough of their stories fleshed out? But as Rowlet cuddles up to Moon. Sun says, huh, that Rowlet, you two sure get along. Moon says, you went to chase after Rotom, right? After that, as we cut to a flashback of Rotom racing out of the lab, Sun chasing, saying, I'm sorry, I'll get Rotom back in return, all right? Meanwhile, Piplup gets Moon's attention, and she says, what? Piplup points to Rowlet, who's still trapped in the bubble. I did kind of question that. I was just like, did she get Rowlet out that bubble? Because I only saw her get out Kukui. But she says, hey, oh no. And she uses her arrow to pop Rowlet's bubble. Sun says it was sneezing. Moon says it got cold after being in the bubble balloon for too long. Sun questions, so you made it some medicine? Moon says, that's right. Sun says, I thought Rowlet wouldn't have a problem fighting Piplup because it's a water type. But Rowlet's always the one that gets beat up. Moon questions, isn't that because it's daytime? Sun questions, huh? Moon says, I asked the professor about it earlier. This little guy, Rowlet, is nocturnal. It uses photosynthesis to store up energy during the day and becomes active at night. Oh, I didn't actually even know that. Moon says, it's like me. I don't like daytime. I like nighttime. Ooh, interesting. Oh, does that mean she'll get a Lycanroc midnight form and he'll get a Lycanroc dusk form or daytime form? Dusk doesn't come until much later. Well, not that much later. The various forms of Lycanroc. What game did Dusk form show up in? Yeah. Oh, so it's just Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Okay. That's not too far off. No, I gotta tell you, Dusk form, I don't know. It's a little too much. It's like they tried to meet the two forms in the middle, but it's more midday form than midnight form. I thought it would have more of a happy medium, but not really. Dusk form it just leans too much in the other direction for me. Nah, midnight form is always where it's at, baby. Sun says, I get it. You mean you are kind of depressing? Wow. Moon throws sand in Sun's face. And as he just walks off, he says, my eyes. But Rowlet tilts his head, and Moon sees this and says, oh, what's wrong? Rowlet points over into the forest, I think. And Moon says, fire. I wonder what from. As Sun cleans the sand out of his eyes, he says, oh, that's the Iki Town bonfire. There's a festival tomorrow after all. Apparently the flames don't go out even if they light them the night before. Moon says, is that so? A festival? Those people from this afternoon said something about that too. Sun says, yeah, it's a real grand one that lots of people attend. It's called the Full Force Festival. Moon questions, full force? What's that supposed to mean? Sun says, no idea. Moon questions, you have no idea about anything, do you? Yeah, he does kind of give off that vibe. Sun says, it's fine with me as long as I can have fun. If you're not in a rush to go home, you should go see it, miss. Does he ever call her by her name? And I guess Sun's working, pulling trailers? What is he doing? With the Tauros, Kukui comes over, seemingly angry, yelling at Sun. Sun says, yo, alola, Professor. You seem tired. Did you get the Pokedex clean? Did Rotom go in it? But Kukui is absolutely pissed. He says, he grabs Sun's face, saying, whose fault do you think it is that I had to stay up all night? Sun says, sorry, what do you need? Kukui then holds up a leaflet with the information on Tapu Koko, saying, did you encounter a Tapu yesterday? Sun says, that's what it's called. I did. Kukui says, I told you when I gave you the Pokédex, didn't I? To report to me immediately if you ran into any Pokemon it couldn't recognize? Sun says, I was so caught up in delivering Rotom that I forgot. Was it really that big of a deal? Kukui says, this case especially. Do you know Island Kahuna Hala? Sun says, nope. God. Kukui says, well, he told me to be wary of this Pokemon and to tell him if I got any information concerning sightings of it. That, and one more thing. There's going to be a Pokemon battle event related to the Tapus at today's festival. He said the more the merrier, so I went ahead and registered you. Sun says, what? Why would you do that? I have to work today. Meanwhile, we cut over to the Kahuna looking through photos of several Pokemon training. Oh God. As Hala says, for the battles we will dedicate to the Tapu at the Full Force Festival, Our current applicants are these 6. So we have oh, okay, I gotta get the name out. The Masked Royal, Lily, Howe, Sun, and a random team Skull Grunt. Huh. I think that was in the game. I can't quite remember. It's been a hot minute since I played Sun and Moon. Well, I played Moon specifically. Alright, and the final chapter of this video is titled The Decision and the Tournament of 6. Alright, we pick up with Sun making his deliveries, calling out, Mr. Mato of Cafe Space. Man calls out, hey, over here, over here. Sun says, sorry to keep you waiting. Call me Sun the Courier. Here's your delivery, a set of market stalls. Oh, jeez. That's a lot to be hauling for that Tauros. And I hope that Tauros gets pampered for all the work it puts in. Mr. Mato. Oh, no. Sun hands over a sign slip to Mr. Mato saying, I need you to sign the receipt. Mato says, good work. Sun then calls out, the last delivery is for Miss Julie of the Malasada shop. Oh man, Hao loves Malasada. That's the one thing I will always remember. How much Hao loves Malasada. Julie calls out, yes, right here, thanks. Sun then recalls his ride gear with the ride pager saying, delivery complete. Geez, I guess that's the end of today's earnings. Enter Moon saying, well, you're making a profit, right? A dejected Sun says, I suppose that's true. Does Moon just now have the Rowlet? Because it's still following her. As she says, huh? You don't look so well, even though it was a profit. Sun says, it's because even after completing this job, I had to decline another, even though it was going to be a big hit. Why, you ask? She didn't, though. It's because Professor Kukui made me enter the full force battle event. I won't even make a single yen from this. Okay, so Sun's the protagonist. I mean, I guess that much should be obvious. Moon is very much just an aside. Moon says, perhaps it was because you got the Pokedex dirty? Or could it be a penalty for not reporting that you encountered a Tapu? Sun turns saying, how did you know about that? Moon says, I hypothesized that he was mad about it when he said, that wretched Sun, why did he keep quiet about encountering it? Hypothesized, right. Moon walks over. I actually like their relationship. They're very eyes on the prize and dismissive about a lot of things you wouldn't think they would be. Very much not the typical proactive protagonists. They're very reactive because they end up in a lot of situations. As Moon says, it looks like a special Pokemon. I'd like to know more. Where's the professor at? Sun says, beats me. Wasn't he like at the harbor to get his wife since she's attending the festival? Suddenly, the team Skull Grunts from before come in with a stall. The male one saying, hey, you brats, you're in the way. Move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. But then he's shocked as he recognizes Sun and Moon, saying, who would have thought that I'd run into you so soon? I was told to let the boss know, but it's fine if I handle this myself, right? He says to the female grunt, and she says, yeah, go ahead. Only for Sun to say, who is he again? Taking both the grunt and Moon off guard. Moon says, wasn't he the one that did that disgraceful act and cheated you out of working the Pukumuku chucking yesterday? Sun says, oh yeah. Only for the grunt to be like, what's with that half-assed oh yeah? Just how far are you gonna insult me? He then sends out his Pukumuku and tries to strike out at Sun. So Sun sends out dollar and cent, but as soon as they lock eyes, they start scrapping. And Sun says, oh crap. Moon says, you predicted this would happen, didn't you? Only for Litten, Pukumuku, and Meowth to be scooped up by Hala's Beware. It's kind of like a more passive version of the Beware in the anime, who would just scoop up Jesse, James, and Meowth from time to time, just getting them out of situations. It's stepping on the Pukumuku. Ugh. As Hala says, all right, all of you stop. I am the kahuna of Mili Mili Island. Hala, it's nice to be lively, but the fighting takes place in the full force battle. So, you are Sun? Sun questions, how did you know? Hala says, naturally, I heard it from Kukui. And you are Grunt A from Team Skull. I wouldn't want to be called Grunt A. I wouldn't want to be called just Grunt. That's okay with you, right? The Grunt says, yeah. Hala gestures to some tents saying, the battle will begin at sunset. Until then, please wait in the participants' rooms over there. As the Grunt enters, he says, I'm leaving the fried slowpoke tail cart to you. The female Grunt says, got it. And as Sun enters, Moon says, good luck, courier. Sun says, yeah. As Hala takes to the stage, he says, now then, the preparations are finished. He then announces to the crowd, the Full Force Festival, a symbol of our devotion to the Tapu, begins now. The crowd cheers in joy and amazement. We even see a full-on display of the Marowak just giving off their little performance. The Alola variant Marowak. You see people buying things at Julie's stall, tourists abound, and as Moon looks around, still with the Rowlet, she says, wow, it's much more lively than I expected. To think that you'll be battling in front of such a large crowd, courier. See, 6 waiting rooms. Are there only 6 people participating? I wonder why. A voice calls out, are you concerned? Oh, it's Olivia. You're friends with that boy's son. She says, I'm Moon, but I wouldn't call myself his friend. And you are? Olivia says, I'm the kahuna of Akala Island. Olivia. Starting now, I'll be giving the participants a malasada, but if you help out, you'll be able to glance at who your friends fights against. Moon says, it's true, I'll help out then. That's true, I'll help out then, but I still wouldn't call myself his friend. Olivia says, yeah, so innocent, so cute. Moon has this blank expression saying, what is? As Olivia blushes, he says, that's how I was too when I was about your age. Also pretended that I wasn't interested in boys either. Oh god. I wonder if this version of Olivia would be interested in Brock too. I mean, shoot, unlike in the anime, Brock should be older by now. You never know. Olivia enters with Moon to Grunt A's tent. As she says, excuse me, I'm here with malasadas. Take one if you'd like. As he takes it, it reads 6 on the bag. Olivia says, Grunt A is number 6. Moon, write that down with this. She hands her a little clipboard. As Moon looks it over, she says, so the malasada's wrapping paper becomes a lottery for who competes against who, huh? Look at that. Number 6 can skip the first round. Oh, really? Dang. I participated in this. I guess I do remember that she did fight one of the grunts. I did think it was kind of weird that she just fought a random grunt. Was the Masked Royal involved too? I don't remember. And I will admit, I too did not know who the Masked Royal was either. For a good long while. I was kind of taken off guard when I found out. As they go into the next tent, Olivia says, all right, next. And we see the Masked Royal doing squats, much to Moon's chagrin. Olivia holds up the basket saying, please take one. As Moon thinks, is he a masked wrestler? Don't tell me that he's going to be fighting instead of his Pokemon. No. Actually, I wouldn't put that past him. As he chooses, he gets number 4. Moon jots that down, saying, number 4, the Masked Royal. As they enter into the next tent, Olivia says, hi there, please take a... And Hal immediately says, Malasada! Malasada! Oh my god, he's like a rabid dog. He just keeps saying Malasada. Hal, I need you to calm down. Olivia shoves him away, saying, hey, Hal, you can't have them all. Take only one. And he just keeps screaming, Malasada! He chooses bag number 3. And he's now been placated as he enjoys some malasada. Still just simply saying malasada. Olivia ushers Moon out saying, let's get going before it all gets taken. And Moon jots it down saying, number 3 is Hal. As they enter into the next tent, the Sun is filling with his abacus. As he sees Moon, he says, oh, it's you. Moon says, hey there, take one. Sun says, for free? Moon says, of course. Sun says, thanks for the food. And as Moon makes her way, she says, the courier is number 5. And he'll be fighting against the Masked Royal in the first round. In the next place, Olivia says, huh? Nobody's here. I wonder if they went to the bathroom. There's a note on the chair saying, I'll return by the time the match is about to start. Yeah, that's very him. I'm pretty sure I know who it is given the shirt. Olivia says, in that case, let's see this person afterwards. They then go over to the next tent, and Olivia says, all right, the last room, excuse me. Only for the person to freak. Oh, it's Lily. Ah, Lily. Ah, humble beginnings of such a great character. You see Lily cowering with her little bag. I'm just realizing we didn't open this up with. So they leave you in the dark about what's going on with Lily. Dang, that's unfortunate because you don't get to see her first real brave act. Shoot, you don't even meet Lily the same way as you do in the game. At least in the original Sun and Moon game. That's kind of a bummer. Because it's the first real display of how brave she could be. Oh man, I'm judging you real hard right now, manga. But Moon says, huh? Why does she look so afraid? Well, she thinks that. All of the contestants seem to have amazing routine. So this person should also. She presents the basket saying, hey, hi there, have a malasada. But Lily recoils. Moon then asks, you're a participant, right? Lily says, yes, but it's a mistake. I've never had a Pokemon battle, and I would never want to see a battle where Pokemon hurt each other. Moon then asks very bluntly, yeah? No, how'd you sign up? Lily says, well, that's because only for her bag to unzip, and out pops Nebby! As it goes racing past Moon and Olivia. And Lily calls out, wait, Nebby! And as she races into the forest, Moon calls out, that thing looks strange, I'll follow her. Olivia says, please do, I'll catch up as soon as I tell Hala. Alright, because they gotta report any weird sightings that they have. It could be related to the Tapu. So as Lily chases after Nebby and Moon chases after Lily, Moon looks to the sky and sees a crack in it. She questions, I wonder what that is. Only for her to hear Lily scream. Lily says, Nebby! Oh, wait, nope. That's how you first are introduced. Okay, so have we essentially split up the protagonist role between Sun and Moon evenly? Okay. I was so focused on how it was distributed, but essentially they've split up the role. Is this the first time that's really happened? Because usually what they would have done is they'd give the other character a completely different role. But at least to some degree you ran into the opposite gender character in the game to some capacity. Somewhere at some point. But here, they've kind of split it down the middle. So maybe does Sun get involved with a lot of the Pokemon League stuff and trials and stuff like that, whereas Moon is more involved with Lily and the plotline with the Aether Foundation? Maybe. But yeah, this is how you're first introduced to Lily. You run upon her with little Nebby out there on the bridge being surrounded by Spearow. And those Spearow are closing in on little Nebby. Moon says, what the hell are you doing? You need to fight back or help. Lily says, I know, but I can't do it. But as the Spearow race in, Moon races in with Rowlet, saying, this is bad. Rowlet, stop them. Okay, so the Rowlet is essentially hers. By all means, the Rowlet is hers. Because this Rowlet is ride or die. Rowlet does its best to fight off the Spearow. Wait, are these Spearow? Am I getting this right? Or is it Spearow? Yeah, Spearow. Okay. I just had to double check. I would hate it if I'm calling them by the wrong name. But one of them manages to duck past Rowlet, and as Moon protects Nebby, she gets slashed on the shoulder. As we see that Rowlet is very much outnumbered. Moon says 1 against 3. Looks like we can't stop them. But Nebby gets pissed and unleashes a massive blast, which unfortunately destroys the bridge that Nebby and Moon are on. Much to Lily and Moon's shock, Moon and Nebby fall towards the sea, only for the sky to completely open, and how you originally ran into Tapu Koko happens. At least that's how I remember it, as it just breaks out of the tear in the sky, comes racing towards Moon. She sees this, it opens its shell, grabs Moon and flies off up into the sky. Olivia's there to witness it too, saying Tapu, as Tapu Koko just gently places Moon down, and then with one glance towards her, takes off to the sky. Olivia comes racing over saying, "Are you okay, Moon?" Moon says, "Yes, but it attacked me yesterday. So why did it save me today?" A lot of good questions. Was Tapu Koko actually attacking? And the fact that it left behind a Z crystal. Interesting. I'm interested in how this ends up being divided up. Moon then hands over Nebby saying, "Here, if this Pokemon is so important to you, then either you need to protect it or it needs to be able to protect itself." Lily takes Nebby saying, "I'm sorry, thank you so much. I'm so sorry. I'm Lily. Professor Kukui's wife takes care of me." Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Moon says, "Really? Then did the professor also make you sign up?" Lily says, "That's not the case. It's because at the reception desk, the little one suddenly came out on its own and was accepted as a participant. The lady in charge misunderstood and didn't notice." Olivia says, I guess it can't be helped. I'll handle your withdrawal." Moon turns to her saying, Miss Olivia, you've already prepared and announced 6 people, right? Then in that case, I'll participate in her place." Oh, really? Interesting. Okay, see, now I'm interested in how this originally went down in the game. See, it's displayed differently in the game. Wait, did you only fight Hal? Yeah, the festival battle. Oh my god, you only fight Hal. Oh, huh. I could have sworn there were other participants. Maybe there are? And I just don't remember? Okay, I can't really find anything about that, so I'm not about to play through a whole entire game just to get that information. Though I did forget that it was Hala who originally gave you your starter. Maybe that's how it happened. No, Sun doesn't recognize Hala. So much of this throwing me off. Oh well. And so the sun starts to set. Hala says, "The sun's starting to set. Participants, come out." As we see the Grunt, the Mash Royal, Sun, Hal, who's still chomping down on the Malasada, and Moon. Hala counts 1, 2, oh, we're 1 short. Voice calls out, "I'm here." The edgy Shadow the Hedgehog character. Hala says, "You're late. Your name?" Gladion says, "Gladion. My Pokemon type no. Discovered a crack in the sky. It started to get worried looking at it." Moon thinks to herself, crack in the sky? Is he talking about that thing from before? Moon tries to ask him about it, but Sun just grabs her and pulls her away, saying, "Come on, they're arranging us one by one, let's go." Hala then announces, "Now then, the rules are that you can have 2 Pokemon on hand and switch out. Your referee kings will be myself, Hala, plus the man that has extensive knowledge on Pokemon in Alola, Professor Samson Oak." "Alola, everyone," says Professor Oak. That's just weird to say. Samson says, "Alola, everyone. The first round is Block A. The match is Sun versus the Mass Royal. The both of you to the stage." Yeah, Professor Oak's cousin. I wonder if they'll actually meet in this. Sun lazily gets on stage while the Mass Royal stands with confidence and vigor. Hala says, "Are the 2 of you ready? Then let us devote this to the Tapu. Let the full force battle commence!" And he raises his hand. Well, his fan, I should say. Moon sends out Litten, while the Mass Royal sends out Rockruff. That was the name, right? Rockruff? Yeah, Rockruff. But then we cut back over to Professor Kukui's laboratory where we see his smoking hot wife. We have Professor Burnett, who's overseeing Lily, saying, I understand. No need to cry anymore, Lily." Lily says, "I'm so sorry, Professor Burnett. I'm being a burden." Burnett says, It's fine. By the way, have you seen my husband?" Lily says, "No, I couldn't even see him at the festival." Burnett goes downstairs saying, "Okay then, if you need me, I'll be down here in the living room. Take it easy and sleep well." Lily says, "I'm so sorry. I know you wanted to watch the full force battle." Burnett says, "Don't worry. I've already had it set up." The Mass Royals match is starting. An announcer of the match says it's the beginning of a fierce match. Whoa! As Litten uses Ember, Rockruff uses Rock Throw. That's the end of our chapter and this video. It is very interesting to have gone from adaptations that had so much room for interpretation or added content and stuff like that, to stuff that I only knew sparse things about. So there's little details that I didn't know, or were introduced to me, or I had to look up, or this, that, and the other. But when it comes to at least the stuff for Moon, I know everything. I played through the entire thing, captured pretty much every Pokemon you could, and it's interesting. But I will also have to say that I'm kind of removed from it to a certain degree. So because of that, there's information that I don't quite remember. It's been such a long while, so there's certain things that can now kind of go under the radar a little bit for me too. But it is fascinating because doing my research through the wiki, I'm just like, yeah, that's right. This happened like this, and this happened like that. I remember doing this, I remember doing that, and yada, yada, yada. And it's so fascinating. And man, Gladion being there and not having Lily involved is also interesting, because I understand what the mangaka are trying to do and why they've done certain things in a certain way and yada, yada, yada. It makes a lot of sense knowing what I know about the story. I'm just kind of concerned with Hal's role, because I will say, I think I have been told that maybe he has a reduced role in this story, which is already gonna suck, because Hal's story is already kind of undercooked a little bit in the game at large, but he does have a good storyline. It's just, oh man, if this is going the way I think it's going, that's gonna be mighty unfortunate. Because people hate on Hal, and I've never felt that was well placed. Hal has an interesting bit of development as the story goes on. But the thing is, even in the anime, I don't really remember how Hal's character came across there either. Because I don't think he was in that many episodes. I don't even know if he was in the Pokemon League competition for the anime. I really can't remember. I remember because a lot of the trial captains are involved as Ash's fellow students, but how, I don't know. I think he was involved, but that should say something that I don't even remember Hal's involvement. And people hating on Hal, I'm just like, you guys know he's essentially kind of like Richie from back in the day. He really kind of comes off like that, and people loved Richie back in the original Pokemon anime. So for them to be hating on the nice guy, yeah, he's nice to a fault, I'll give you that. He's kind of a pushover the way he's presented, but I don't know. I like Hal well enough, but I understand why have the nice Hal when you have the macho Gladion. But overall, the story of Sun and Moon, it really is kind of Lily's story. I can't not say that. It's Lily's story. Lily is the main character, more or less, for the majority of the best parts of the plot line. So to say anything else would be disingenuous. How Lily grows, how she develops, the person she becomes, it's an amazing journey. And I will say, even if a few other characters kind of get a little bit of the shaft, as long as they do her story justice, I'll be okay with it. But we'll find out together. Or if you know, enjoy the ride. So let me know your thoughts on these chapters in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and hope to see you later. So then take care. Bye-bye.